Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Wednesday, January 4th, 2023. I am Dave Biddle, flying solo on today's show. A lot to get into. We're going to start with the transfer portal. The Buckeyes landed an excellent one yesterday. Safety Jihad Carter from Syracuse, an excellent player. He's going to come right in and start, no doubt about that. Considered one of the best players in the portal, period. So that's a really good get. Where does he fit? Is he going to take Tanner McAllister's spot? He's a bigger, more athletic version of Tanner McAllister. He can play that slot safety, which is really a hybrid safety corner, as we all know. He could play adjuster, although I think that's going to be Kai Stokes taking over for Rocket Hickman there. And then Lathan Ransom coming back at the Bandit. Hopefully, Court Williams will be healthy. Sonny Styles is going to be a factor. So I love them getting Jihad Carter. This kid was a big-time player at Syracuse. All you got to do is look on their message boards when he transferred, and their fans were just devastated. That tells you everything you need to know. Okay, so the Buckeyes got Jihad Carter, and they lose J.K. Johnson, redshirt freshman J.K. Johnson. Certainly not happy with his lack of playing time. Got a couple starts this year when they were really decimated with injuries, but couldn't hold on to the job. And once they got healthy, he lost his job. Big-time recruit. He was ranked as the number 3 corner in the country coming out of high school. So, we'll see what happens. I'm sure he's going to have plenty of suitors. I'll take that trade, though, so to speak, if you're going to look at it in this day and age. It's kind of, I'll take that trade for, they don't play the same position. Because I really like getting Jihad Carter. And, from what I was hearing, Jair Brown was probably going to pass J.K. Johnson anyway. You got Jordan Hancock coming back. You got Denzel Burt coming back. So J.K. Johnson maybe was thinking, man, I might be the number 4 corner. He already was probably disgruntled that he wasn't playing more. I don't think I'm breaking news there. I don't think he was causing trouble when I say disgruntled. He just wasn't happy with his playing time. So there you go. And furthermore, in the portal, man, portal season is off and running, isn't it? It's about ready to get even crazier. So what do they need to do from here? They don't need to, I don't think they need to get like 10 guys from the portal. They can't do that. That's not Ryan Day's style, but they also can't do what they did last year. They only got 3. None of them were impact players. One of them was the kicker that didn't even play. He didn't get eligible for a while, but even then, I mean, Jaden Fielding was doing a good job. As the kickoff specialist, which is what they were bringing Parker Lewis in for. So we'll see. But that Jaden Fielding's coming back. I don't know what they're going to do with Parker Lewis. The other 2 guys, Tanner McAllister, who was average for Ohio State standards. Maybe I'm being kind there. Great young man, but and then Chip Trayanum. You bring in a backup, backup linebacker / backup running back. You've got to make more of an impact than that. So they already did. Jihad Carter is already better than anybody they landed last year by a long shot, in my opinion. They've got to get at least 1, obviously, and probably 2 offensive linemen. We all know they've already, missed out on a couple. So they've got to get, at least 1, maybe 2 offensive linemen, specifically tackles. We'll see what happens with DeJuan Jones. I tend to think he's going to go pro. He's not announced that yet. Paris Johnson pretty much announced it in his Players Tribune story. In addition to being a really good player and a great young man, he's a heck of a writer too. Journalism major at Ohio State. I don't think he's going to need that journalism degree, though. I think he might have a different career path if I had to guess. So they're going to lose Paris Johnson Jr. early to the draft, who's going to be a first-round pick. DeJuan Jones. I've seen people project him as like a late first-round pick. I don't think that would happen. But I do think it'd be probably a day 2 pick, second or third round. So we'll see what happens with DeJuan Jones. Point is, if they lose DeJuan Jones, you better go out there and get another tackle just for depth purposes. Get 2 tackles. I think Josh Fryer can be solid as the right tackle, maybe better than solid. Next year, I thought he was played pretty well this year as that 6th man. I think Zen Mihalski at left tackle is a guy to keep an eye on. So they wouldn't be in dire straits. But they've got to at least get depth there and get at least 1 guy who's good enough to compete with Fryer and Mihalski for a starting spot, to put pressure on them. And then if even if you don't win that job, if one of those guys gets hurt, you have to have somebody that's capable to go in there. Because I don't know about some of the rest of the tackles. Maybe Tegra Shabola, but I think he's more of a guard. We'll see. Maybe a guy like George Fitzpatrick. They've got other guys on the roster, but some of the now older guys like Grant Toutant and Trey LaRue. I don't know. They better get an offensive lineman or 2 in the portal. All right, switching gears. This is my first podcast since I've been back in Ohio. I'm not coming at you from a hotel room in Atlanta for a while. So in my first podcast since right after the Peach Bowl, I just want to furthermore talk about C.J. Stroud having the best performance by an Ohio State quarterback that I can ever remember. And I don't say that lightly. And, you know, the way he threw the ball, the way he was, you know, moving in the pocket to keep plays alive, and then, you know, making guys miss, and then, you know, throwing touchdown passes. I mean, even just for his passing standards, that was like elite. And we know that he's super elite as a passer. It's almost like he even took that to the next level. And then what did he do? The one thing we've all wanted him to do, picking up cheap first downs, and almost won the game with a long run. You know, picking up cheap first downs with his legs. Even before that long run, he did it a few times. So I loved that. I mean, his rushing, you know, because they have the stupid stat in college where, you know, sacks count against your rushing stats. They need to do what the NFL does. But anyway, I digress. He ran the ball really well. He threw the ball next level. CJ Stroud went out like an absolute beast. So kudos to him. Kudos to him. He's been, you know, I don't know. I'll never say he's much maligned. I think that's a vocal minority. But yeah, even people like me that love CJ, we're always saying, like, he just needs to add this. He needs to add that element to his game. I really think it was probably the coaches telling him not to run, Ryan Day specifically. I really believe that, because go back and look at it. CJ actually ran a decent amount in high school. He proved he's not afraid to run. So, and now I think NFL scouts have a really, really, really hard decision to make. I think coming into the game, they're all like, okay, it's Bryce Young as number one. We were conflicted coming in the season. Maybe most were leaning towards CJ. I think going into the Peach Bowl, they were like, probably Bryce Young was number one. Now CJ might have just shot up. He might be that guy. He helped himself that much. All right, the Marvin Harrison Jr. call. I still cannot believe that. Now, that's not why they lost the game. I mean, that sure would have helped. The defense lost this game. We're going to get to that in a minute. You can't give up 42 points. Ohio State cannot score 41 points against a great team like Georgia, have the lead the entire game and still lose. It's on the defense. But the replay official or whatever, like control center nonsense they're doing, just absolutely, you know, incompetent at the very least. I'll just leave it at that. Incompetent at the very least. You can fill in the blanks from there. Here's the thing. Even if it's shoulder to helmet, too many people don't understand the targeting rule. It doesn't matter. If you launch at a guy's head, that's targeting. I mean, Marvin was knocked out, literally and figuratively. He was knocked out, and then he was knocked out of the game. Now, that really is secondary. But my point is, and Ryan Day even mentioned this while trying to, I don't know how he does that. I couldn't do it as a head coach, which is why I do things like podcasts and I write instead of major college head coaching. I couldn't cut it. I'd be the one like ripping the officials in the post-game presser and getting fined and probably fired. But seriously, I mean, Ryan Day even like alluded to it. It's like he got hit in the head, and I don't know how you could get hit in the head. And then because the officials told him, well, he didn't get hit in the head. It's like, no, you go back and look at it. I mean, it was shoulder to shoulder at first, but then it was shoulder to head, and the guy absolutely launched at him. I mean, he wasn't going for the ball or anything. I talk a lot of times I don't like targeting because it's like that's not the spirit of the rule. You know, Trevor Lawrence was running. Sean Wade's about ready to take him on. Trevor Lawrence lowers his helmet at the last second, and they go helmet to helmet. That's not targeting. Sean Wade's not launching at him. That dude was launching at Marvin. Here's my point, though. Maybe if the officials on the field didn't see it and they didn't call it, and then the replay officials like, I'm not going to overturn it, I could live with that. The fact it was called, it clearly called on the field because they saw this guy launching at his head. Called on the field targeting for you to overturn that. That tells me that's shady as possible. That's 2019 Fiesta Bowl shadiness. Again, Ohio State still should have won the game. That play did not cost them the game. I mean, that might have cost them the game. My point is, they still should have won the game. The defense is why they lost this game. So the Marvin call, complete BS that they overturned that. I'd love to hear a good explanation for that. Because that's whatever the explanation would be complete BS, because that was targeting. You launch at a guy's head, you literally knock him out unconscious, and then they overturn it. Absolute nonsense, and it was a 4-point swing. Instead of a touchdown, Ohio State gets a field goal there. But they're still at 14 points going into the fourth quarter. And then the defense just can't get out of its own way. I mean, for second straight game, they just absolutely just embarrassed themselves. Unbelievable. Guys wide open. Same things we saw in the Michigan game, just giving up big plays. Unbelievable. Now, so, I mean, Michigan game, terrible. Georgia game, terrible. So the big question is Jim Knowles the answer? I don't know. I thought he was for sure. Okay. But I'm not in the Jim Knowles, fire the Jim Knowles. I'm not in the Jim Knowles should be fired right now camp. I don't think he would be anyway. We got to give him another year. And I think it's irrelevant. They will. And they did improve, but they didn't play any good offenses. Yeah. I mean, through 11 games, they were ranked really high. They're in the top 10, but that was cool. Because even last year, they didn't play any good defenses and they were ranked. This is why I said like last year when they were ranked 59th in the country in total defense. I'm like, that's kind of misleading because they didn't play any good offenses like in their 59th. So listen, but saying he's an improvement over Kerry Combs as a defensive coordinator is an extremely low bar. So we'll see. I would give him another year. If we're having the same conversation next year, where anytime they play an offense with a pulse, they're giving up like 70-yard plays every time you look up. Can't happen. Can't happen. 2 straight games. And Michigan game felt a little fluky. I still believe it was a little bit fluky. You got to give credit to Michigan, but there's also both things can be true. I think there was some flukiness there. But that's 2 games in a row. That's not a fluke. That's starting to be a trend in football. 2 games is a big, like in baseball, that'd be like what the equivalent of what? Like in Major League Baseball, like 20 games or something like that, maybe more than that. So 2 games in football is a trend, especially when it's the chips are all on the table, all pushed into the middle of the table in 2 straight games, and the defense just completely can't get the job done. For CJ to have a game like that and for the defense just to completely let the team down, inexcusable. But I'd give Knowles another year. I'm not ready to fire Knowles. All right, speaking of interesting things from Ohio State's coaches, Ryan Day, according to Kirk Herbstreit, they had a conversation, and I'm sure Ryan would have told him, don't say anything if he didn't want him to say anything. But Herbie mentioned that Ryan Day is most likely going to give up play calling. And that's interesting. I think that's a good move. I think I think the best coaches are CEOs, and he'll be heavily involved, obviously, whoever's the offensive coordinator, or they'll probably be co-offensive coordinators. I'll get to that in a moment. But I think this is good. I think he can, with so much on his plate now. I mean, even before the NIL era and the portal era, there was so much on Ohio State's head coaches' plate, head coaches at any major program. Now it's just insane. So, I certainly think that this is a good move. Now, I'm curious what's going to happen. And I'm surprised. I never thought Ryan Day would give up offensive play calling. That's just what he does. So credit to him that he's, continues to evolve. If this is true, he's not come out and confirmed this, but I can't imagine Herbie would put that out there after having a one-on-one interview with Ryan Day, or I guess it was behind the scenes. It wasn't like an interview, but it's 2 guys talking, I guess, is a better way to put it. But I'm sure Ryan Day would have told him, don't put that out there. I've had conversations with Ryan Day, certainly not as many as Kirk Herbstreit has. And if he doesn't want you to put something out there, he'll, very politely ask you not to. He won't demand it. Ryan Day's a good guy. By the way, Ryan Day, credit to him. He coached his butt off. He had Kirby on his heels the entire game, and until that after CJ's big run. Then after that, he got conservative. But other than that, when the game was on the line there. But seriously, I mean, give Ryan Day credit. I mean, you're not going to call a perfect game, and that's too bad that he went conservative there at the end. You got to try and get another first down there, or at least, be a little more aggressive than that. Give yourself a cheap field goal, not a 50-yard field goal with Ruggles. Can't kick the ball past 49 yards, as we all know. But up until then, Ryan Day coached his butt off. He had Kirby guessing, and Ohio State was just, doing whatever they wanted against an excellent defense. So Ryan Day, and he was over there fired up, loved it. All right, so credit to Ryan if he does that. I think that's good. But I think what they're probably going to do is elevate Brian Hartline to passing game coordinator and Justin Fry to run game coordinator. And maybe that'll be a good thing. But I'm not a big co-coordinator guy. That's too many cooks in the kitchen. I want a offensive coordinator. This is the offensive coordinator. He's up in the box. He's calling the plays. Yeah, Ryan Day would have veto power. Yeah, Justin Fry or whoever is not the offensive coordinator is co-offensive coordinator by title. He's going to have heavy input. Or if it's Hartline by title, he would have heavy input. Or maybe it would work. Maybe it would work as Hartline as pass game coordinator, Fry as run game coordinator with Dave mixing. Maybe it would work. I don't know. I think that's probably what Coach Day is going to do, because he's already filled the Kevin Wilson void with another promotion from within with Coach Bailey, who gets very high marks over there. We'll see now. I mean, now he's been elevated to a full-time position coach, so we'll see. So I don't think they're going to bring in anybody from the outside. He also has analyst Todd Fitch out there who's heavily involved. Maybe they'll bring in another analyst. I don't know. A lot of promoting from within on both sides of the ball. We'll see. But I think that's probably what they're going to do. We'll see. We'll see if it works. If they have Justin Fry as run game coordinator. Now, he did have the title of offensive coordinator at UCLA, but Chip Kelly called the plays there. That was still a good experience for Justin Fry. And Brian Hartline, I'm not even going to call him a rising star in the profession. He's just a star in the profession. And eventually he was going to move on and be an offensive coordinator at a big-time school or offensive coordinator here at Ohio State, and then eventually a head coach if he wants to be. He's already set for life money-wise, but he obviously, loves coaching and is very good at it. So if you're competitive, you want to be a head coach one day. You want to be the highest at your the top level of your profession, being a competitor like Brian Hartline is. So maybe this is, another way to keep Hartline around. And maybe Coach Day will just promote one of them. One of them will have the co-offensive coordinator title, but won't really be calling plays. And one just will be offensive coordinator. We'll see. Can't wait to talk to Coach Day about that. I'm fascinated that he's giving up play calling duties, and curious to see what he's going to do. All right, final thing. Ooh, a lot of smoke out there. It's not even smoke now. When John U. Bacon, who I really liked, does a great job. Michigan historian, Michigan writer, even a professor at Michigan. One of the few times you'll hear me say nice things about Michigan. No, it's John U. Bacon. He's a good man and does a great job. When John U. Bacon says if Harbaugh gets a job offer, he's probably gone. I mean, you can take that to the bank. I mean, John U. Bacon's as plugged in as anybody for Michigan football. So a lot of smoke out there. Harbaugh has already talked to the Panthers. The Panthers reached out to him, the Carolina Panthers. That'd be interesting. Kind of start kind of fresh. You're in an easy division there. And I mean, the Panthers are competing. We're competing for the title this year. That's how bad that division is. Tom Brady, it doesn't have much longer with the Bucks. Saints are a mess. The Falcons are a mess. That makes a lot of sense. I was thinking Colts if Harbaugh left, and I'm sure Irsay's going to go after him. I'm sure because there's talk out there that Harbaugh's one of the top commodities. And people are saying, oh, that worked out well last time the Panthers got a college head coach, Matt Rule. Yeah, but as people pointed out, Harbaugh's proven he's not your typical college head coach. He's proven he's a good NFL coach. Took the Niners to the NFC Championship game his first year, coming off a terrible year under Mike Singletary. And then the next year he takes them to the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. Almost won the Super Bowl against his brother. So that's going to be interesting. See, in the span of 2 years, we went from hoping Harbaugh would always stay there to maybe this isn't a bad thing for Ohio State. But I don't know. Michigan will still get a good coach, and I kind of wanted another shot at him. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he will stay. But I find that interesting. There is once John. Yeah, I was thinking, okay, that makes sense. There's some smoke out there about Harbaugh. It started a while back with the Indianapolis Colts writer saying he needs to come to Indianapolis, where his name's in their not their Hall of Fame, but their Lucas Oil Wall of Fame, whatever it's called. You guys know what I'm talking about. Even though he had a losing record as a starting quarterback, barely. It was 22-26. He took them to an AFC Championship game. So, he said Irsay was the owner then as well. So, and maybe he still will go to the Colts. Maybe it'll take whoever maybe offers him the most money and the most control. We'll see. Maybe it'll be a bidding war. But he's getting interest, and John U. Bacon says if he gets offered a job, he'll probably take it. That's whew. And it sounds like he will get offered a job. So it sounds like Jim Harbaugh might be off to the NFL before we know it. Rest in peace to my good friend Dwayne Long. That was really tough news that we got, a little bit more than a week and a half ago. Still processing that. Rest in peace, Dwayne. All right. Appreciate you guys joining me for the show. Keep it locked to Bucknuts. We're going to have plenty of coverage later today on all things Ohio State. Hopefully there'll be an offensive lineman in the portal. I'm not breaking news. I don't think they're going to land an offensive lineman today. Who knows? Jahad Carter came out of nowhere a little bit, so maybe they will. Portal season is off and running. Thanks for joining me on this edition of the show. Appreciate you guys a lot. Hope everyone has